Welcome to Surviving Show Business, the podcast that takes you inside entertainment to help you survive and thrive with your host, Aaron Seals. Surviving Show Business is sponsored by nycastings.com, the place where stars are born. Actors, models, dancers, and singers can join and get casting notices sent to your phone every day. Okay, folks, welcome back to the show. Today is all about publicity, actors getting publicity and working with a publicist, and what do you do with the publicist? How do they work? How do they get you more work? That sort of stuff. So today we're talking with Anthony Turk of TURK PR. He is a celebrity publicist, and we're going to ask him all about this stuff. Welcome, Anthony.
Hi, Aaron. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. Okay, so tell us the core values of what a publicist does for an actor.
Wow, I could talk now for an hour just on that question alone.
Good, do that.
Yeah, yes, I will. Basically, when an actor gets to a certain point in their career where they have a project that they really need to promote and they need to promote themselves within that project, you hire a publicist to get your name and your face recognition out there. And PR is just as much about the project that you're promoting now as it is about getting your next project. So a publicist, by nature, we're the very last person that is hired onto an actor's team. You know, they have their agent or their manager already. We are the last one that's hired on. We're hired on after they've landed that job, and they need to start promoting themselves within that job.
And who is generally the person that hires you?
It's usually the actor that hires us, because we really have to get along well, and we have to have good synergy with the actor. A lot of times, just because I personally have a lot of relationships with agents and managers, they want to, because I work with them with other clients, and then once a new client gets a job, they say, hey, listen, we'd like you to meet with some publicists. In particular, I'd like you to meet with Anthony Turk, just because, we already have a rapport. They're used to working with me. They know how I work. They trust me. They respect me, and it's vice versa. So a lot of times the agent and manager will bring me on, but it's ultimately the actor's decision. And, for me personally, I've gotten a lot of clients based on other actors. Like, for instance, I will be working with an actor, and then another actor from another show says, hey, I see you in the press a lot, and I always see you out on red carpets and stuff with your publicist. Can I ask you about your publicist? Because, I want somebody that comes highly recommended, and, would it be okay if I met with your publicist? So a lot of times I meet new clients through existing clients as well. So there's different channels of how I meet new clients.
Okay, got it. And so when a person hires you, what do you guys do to get started, to get the ball rolling?
First thing we do is when somebody hires me. Well, first of all, can I just back that up just a little bit?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
So the thing is that not everybody needs a publicist, and not everybody should have a publicist. Mm-hmm. So even before we get started, I meet with actors all the time, and there's a lot of actors, more often than not, that aren't really at the level to have a publicist. And unfortunately, just because people have the money to hire a publicist doesn't mean it's right to hire a publicist. And unfortunately, there's a lot of unscrupulous publicists out there, and some of them are even reputable, but they're a little unscrupulous, if you will. And they'll take on somebody who's really not ready to be publicized just because they're willing to pay them. And I think that's silly, and I think it's a waste of time, and I think it demeans the whole idea of publicity, and I think it also disrespects the actor because, again, it's not their time, and you need to be honest with people and represent them when it is their time and when they should have a publicist, not beforehand, not before it's time. So that being said, once I establish that, yes, this is somebody that's ready for PR, they're ready to go, and we need to start promoting them and their face and their name and their project, then we sit down and we go through and we create a biography for them if they don't have one. That's one thing that we do. And then another thing that we have to do, because we have to have supporting materials, because when we're pitching clients to magazines, radio, internet, paper magazines, talk shows, red carpet events, you have to have materials to send to let people know who they are, especially when they're new, when they're like brand new on a new TV series where the press doesn't really know who they are yet. Mm-hmm. So we got to create a biography. I always set up a photo shoot. I have photographers that I work with, and we set up photo shoots so that we have multiple photos in different outfits, different looks, so that we have photos for magazines to provide to magazines. Because most of the photo shoots nowadays in magazines, the photos you see in magazines, those photos are just, especially unless it's a big editorial 5-page spread. Most of the photos that that you see in those magazines of actors with interviews are stuff that the publicist has provided for the magazine. The magazine doesn't shoot those photos. They just don't.
That's good. Saves a bundle of dough for the magazine.
Most of the magazines they don't have the budgets to do those kind of shoots anymore. So we provide the photos, and so we set up a photo shoot. We do all that. We get that going. Then the other thing is that if they're on a television series, I reach out to the show publicist, because I have to work hand in hand with the publicist for the actual show. Or if it's a movie, I reach out to the film publicist, whoever it is that I need to work with. I establish a rapport with them, because they need to know everything I'm doing, and they also need to rely on me when they need my client to do publicity on behalf of the show. And so, we've established that rapport. I'm constantly looking for opportunities for them. Most publicists, we all subscribe to different wire services. We have journalists reaching out to us all the time, looking for people for different articles that they're writing, looking for, people from different television shows, looking for, the people that they need to interview. We're also, constantly getting invites to charity events and premieres and openings of stores. And, we have to go through and decipher all that and decide, what events and things are good for which clients. So, it's just constantly, for a publicist, we're in front of our computer all day on our phone, and we're just getting bombarded with information and opportunities. And it's really a matter of going through and just figuring out which opportunities are better for which clients. And then at the same time, we're also reaching out to all of our contacts and pitching our clients for opportunities and trying to create opportunities that don't already exist. So meaning like calling, magazines like People Magazine and trying to pitch an interesting angle about your client who's on a show that they might find interesting and that they might, grab onto. So, information is coming in and information is going out.
Got it. Now let's go back to what is a qualifying client. Where do you think is a good starting point for a person to hire you?
Well, personally for me, I believe.
Like, is it being on a national TV show? That's a good benchmark. Being a series regular on a TV show?
Being a series regular on a TV show, that's one. Being a guest star on a show really isn't all that newsworthy anymore, unless you're Brad Pitt or Julia Roberts. Then it's newsworthy. But pretty much, unless you're a household name or unless you're a massive star, you really need to be a series regular on a show to make it, newsworthy and to, make it, necessary to hire a publicist. Or if you're in a film, if it's a film where, if you're like the 25th build in a film, I mean, you don't need a publicist, because there's really not going to be that much interest in you, especially if the film is loaded at the top of the billing with, big star names. Really you need to be within kind of the top 5 names of a movie, unless it's a big ensemble cast and, and you're already, an established name. But I mean, really you should be in the top 5 billing. And then again, the movie has to be something that people are going to be interested in. If it's a $50,000 budget movie that's crap, nobody cares. It's got to be, I mean, it can be an independent film for $50,000, but it's got to be really great, and you have to have a good distribution. It has to be something that, the press thinks people are going to be able to go out and see. It has to be something that has decent distribution for anybody in the press to care about it. But so basically, you've got to have something that's worth promoting. You really have to have something that's out there worth promoting. And the other thing is, you have to be able to afford a publicist, because I'm a luxury item. I'm something that you've achieved something and you can afford to pay me, because, publicity isn't cheap. And it's really hard for publicists. We usually ask people to commit, contractually to a certain amount of time, because once we get going and we start moving, it's a lot of work, and you're constantly pitching and you're constantly putting stuff out there. Very time consuming, and it's my time is expensive. And so, you have to be able to be in a position to financially afford a publicist. It's just, again, I'm a luxury item.
What would be like some success stories that you took somebody on, you started working with them, you got them good publicity spots, and then they ended up getting more work because of that, and so it was a payoff to them. Like, can you give me success stories on that?
I'll give you a couple, but I mean, I have to say, I have to put out the disclaimer. My efforts helped. There were a lot of other factors that came into play, like the fact that they were really talented actors. They also had really good agents and managers that were really pushing hard for them. And so because we had a really well-oiled machine all together, I was just a contributing factor. But like one thing that I could say looking back, so one of my clients is actress Eva Larue. Eva Larue and I have been together for 18 years, which is kind of unbelievable.
Wow.
But Eva was first broke onto the scene. She was on All My Children. She was on that out of New York, and I was representing her when I was in LA. She was in New York, so we were on different coasts. So she was on that, and we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I realized she was originally from Los Angeles. That's where all of her family was from. And I knew that although she had done really well and she was very successful in New York, she really wanted to get back to LA. And I knew the only way to do that was for her to get off daytime and to get onto a primetime show. And she knew that, and her team knew that. So we were really pushing for that. So I got out of the soap opera press, and I started getting her everything I could possibly get for her outside of the soap opera world. So I was trying to get her into more mainstream magazines and mainstream press. And I was very successful because she was also doing side projects on the side. She was guest starring on a couple TV shows here and there. Like she had a recurring role. Then she got on Third Watch on NBC. And then she also did like a stint on Hope and Faith with her buddy Kelly Ripa. And so she was doing stuff. So I just kept pushing press, bigger press, bigger press. And in the end, what ended up happening was, she ended up landing a role on the biggest show in the world. She was a series regular for 7 years on CSI Miami. And it was funny because when she got that part on CSI Miami, which was a huge jump from a soap opera to the #1 most watched show in the world, she called me in and we sat down. And it was funny because a lot of my PR friends said, "Oh, this is it. You're getting the axe. You're getting the axe." And actually, she called me in to tell me that I was a big part of her success in Define Time, and she gave me a raise. So,
wow.
And we've been together ever since. Anyway, so that was an example of where success paid off. Another one I can think about is Dustin Chong, who's probably best known for the Twilight movies. He was Eric Yorkie. He's the Korean photographer who was one of Belle's best friends in that. And then he went on to do 21 and Over. He starred in that with Miles Teller and Skylar Astin. And that was done by the guys who did Hangover. And then Justin recently wrote, produced, directed, and starred in a film called Gook that won the Audience Next Award at Sundance. And now he is directing a film for the company that did Mudbound and Fences.
Okay.
Which, is huge. So anyway, but when Justin first came to me, 15 some years ago, he was just on a series on Nickelodeon. It was Just Jordan, this kids show. Nobody knew who he was. He came on board with me, and I was knocking down doors to get him into parties and stuff, and there's a real strong Asian Hollywood community where they really support one another. and the different Asian communities, and in particular the Korean Asian community here in Hollywood, and they have really strong contacts, in film and television, and they all kind of get behind each other. But man, nobody knew him, and we had to push down doors, and I was like fighting to get him into parties, and just really kicking through the doors, and pushing and fighting to get him into magazines and stuff, because he was on this kids show on Nickelodeon, and nobody seemed to care. And all of a sudden, one by one, the efforts just started paying off. And again, along with his whole team, we were just able to build him up. And now, he's directing like a major film for a major company that, was nominated for all these Oscars. And so, that was a big, I saw his career really move and progress. That was really amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about kids? Is there anything in particular that you would do with a child actor as opposed to an adult?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. Kids are a little bit different because kids are limited. There's a lot of press venues that do not want to cover kids just because, they just choose not to, because sometimes kids can be really difficult to interview. Because, you see kids sometimes on television, and they're really fun, and they're cute, and they're quirky, and they're good at lines and memorizing lines. But then when you put them in front of an interviewer, and they're asking them something off the cuff that they haven't prepared for, a lot of times child actors can't do it. They're not great at it. And so, with kids, you've got to be really careful to make sure that, you have a kid who is good at off-the-cuff questions, and that, can answer questions, especially when they're not rehearsed, when it's just, they're just flying at them. So, with kids, there's always different concerns. And also, too, there's a lot of things out there that are not kid-friendly. There's a lot of there's magazines out there that aren't really kid-friendly. There's, cable shows out there. There's radio and internet shows that, are more adult topic stuff. So you have to really scrutinize everything, because you don't want to get, a 10-year-old kid on a show where, they're talking, they use foul language and things like that. So with kids, there's always those kind of considerations. You always have to, you kind of have to act like a parent, because you are responsible for helping to protect them, just like a parent would.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a sense of responsibility with kids too. And kids can be difficult too. I've been really lucky. I've had great kids clients, but a lot of times with child actors, they're not the problem. Their parents are the big problem.
Of
I
course.
can say that I've experienced it before. Personally for myself, I'm super lucky, super, super lucky. But, I have, through my child actors, I have experienced other child actors who are super nightmares, and you're trying to figure out why they're such nightmares, and then their parents walk into the room, and you witness their parents for about 2 minutes, and you get why they are the way they are, Yeah. So, with kids, I'm always a little skeptical, but I have one kid, but he's kind of not so much a kid anymore. He's 16 now, but I've had him since he was 13. Michael Campion, he's one of the stars of Fuller House. He plays Jackson, that's Candace Cameron's DJ's eldest son. And I have him, and he's just like awesome. He's like my nephew. And his parents are they're awesome. They're so easy to work with. They, they follow my lead. They're so cooperative. They're just really on top of stuff. And Michael's been really great. And it's interesting because now he's getting more mature. Like a couple of years ago, we were really gearing his press toward younger stuff and kids stuff and everything. And then now that he's kind of at that teen, kind of moving into the, toward adulthood, it's funny because now his press is changing, and he's doing a little bit more mature press, and he's able to do like longer interviews, and because he can answer in full and complete, methodical, well thought out sentences. So it's fun to see how that evolves as these teenagers start to mature. So these are all considerations that publicists have to go through.
Right. Now you spend time with your clients, kind of coaching them on how to give good interviews. I was reading that on your website.
I do. The thing is that, again, remember that, some actors are really good at improv, others aren't. Others are just really good at memorizing scripts. And so, a lot of actors, as you probably know, they're very comfortable when they're playing someone else, when they step out of their own skin, and they can be on a stage in front of 5,000 people, or they can be in front of a whole crew, on a TV or a movie set. And they're very comfortable because they're in someone else's skin. They're not themselves. But when actors sometimes have to be themselves and they have to answer questions honestly and with integrity, being themselves, they tend to get nervous. They tend to, clamor up. They give, sometimes they give a lot of one-word answers. And so, what I have to do is I have to, do some practice sessions with them, asking them questions, and make sure that they're answering, the questions right, and that they're answering with full and complete sentences where they're well thought out, and that they're making sense. They can't just hand out a yes or a no. That doesn't make for a good interview. And chances are, if they're doing yes and no answers, they're never going to be asked back again. So I train them, and I show them the best way to answer questions, and I, I coach them along. That's part of my job.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's good press, there's bad press, damage control. What if you got a client and something bad happens, like they get drunk and they get in a fight at a bar? There's damage control to be done. How is that dealt with?
That would never happen with any of my.
It could.
No, it's happened a lot in the past. Not recently, but yeah, I mean, I've had some really tough stuff. I had, I got to be careful how I say this so that people. I actually had a client where, this was kind of a funny story. So it was kind of a funny story that became a huge headache. So it wasn't funny for him, and it wasn't funny for me. But I was walking out of a 99-cent store. And I'm carrying my bags from the 99-cent store because I go there and I buy my cleaning products. Yep. And I'm walking out, and all of a sudden I get a call on my phone. It says TMZ. So right away, as a publicist, the first thing that happens is I get a real sick feeling in the pit of my stomach because I know that somebody's in trouble for something, and I've got to actually work today. So I picked up the phone, and the TMZ person said, "Hey, I'm calling about," and I'm just going to throw out a name. I'm going to make up a name. "I'm calling about John." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Do you have anything to comment about John?" And I said, "You know what? I don't right this minute because I'm walking out of Macy's." I had to lie because I couldn't tell TMZ that I was at the 99-cent store. I had somewhere a little better than that. Anyway, so I just said, "You know what? Can I call you back as soon as I get back to my office?" I said, I have a lot of stuff in my hand. I just needed to fudge because I needed to get a hold of John to figure out what had happened. So what had happened was John had a few too many drinks and wrapped his car around a tree.
Oh.
Yep. So anyway, I ended up yelling at him and saying, "Why didn't you call me? I should have been the first person you called," because I didn't think anybody would care. Well, unfortunately, that was the day before TMZ was going to go live as a television show. Because remember, before that, it was just a website.
Right.
So the next day, they were going live as a TV show, and John was like, I think, the second item on TMZ. So anyway, that was one of those things where, unfortunately, there's only so much damage control a publicist can do. But because of all the technology today with cell phones and photos and everything, I mean, they had this all on camera. What are you going to do? Say it didn't happen? You just couldn't. That was one of those things where you just couldn't. Another time, way before all this, back when the National Enquirer was like the big thing, I had a client show up in the National Enquirer with somebody other than her husband. And then she tried to deny to me that it happened. But, how do you deny it when there's photos? You know what I mean? And you're in Europe with somebody who's not your husband. So that was kind of an interesting thing. And here I am on the phone trying to downplay it. But, there was only so much a publicist can do. The big problem is you used to be able to do a lot more damage control years ago. But now there's so much proof out there that, unfortunately, as a publicist, I hate saying this, but, TMZ is usually pretty correct on what they report.
Now, it's interesting you bring up TMZ because I watch their TV show quite often, and they're always hanging out at the airport. And so I hear, well, the publicists will call TMZ and say, so-and-so is coming in at the airport today at 4 p.m. Go talk to them. So
Oh yeah,
it seems like there's a lot of PR tricks out there.
Yeah, publicists do that all the time. I personally, I have to say, I've never called TMZ to go meet one of my clients at the airport. I'm trying to think. No, I've never done that. It's not, it's not below me. I mean, I would do, if I had something, worth promoting that I thought that they could give it a jump on the buzz on it. But I've never done that. I have, I'll tell you the most I've ever done is if I'm going to meet clients at a restaurant that's like a high profile restaurant where the press is standing outside. When I show up, a lot of the cameras here in LA know me. They know most of us publicists. So the minute I show up, they'll come right up to me, and they come out of nowhere. Like you don't even see them standing there, and like they're hiding in the shadows. They'll come right out and they'll say, "Oh, Turk." They'll call me Turk. They said, "Turk, who do you have coming? Who do you have coming?" And then if I have someone coming, I'll say, "Oh, I have so and so coming." They'll, "Oh, great, we're going to watch for them." And then they'll shoot them and stuff. But that's pretty much the most I've ever done like that. But again, like I said, it's not beneath me. I would, if there was something really worth promoting, I'd call them and give them a heads up. Yeah, why not?
What about that saying, there's no such thing as bad press?
Not true. Not true. Yeah, I mean, look, just case in point, look at the politics right now with this Kavanaugh.
Right.
I mean, this whole story is terrible press. Whether he'll probably get approved, but still, I mean, this is going to loom over him forever. Clarence Thomas is still looms over him. And there's there's going to be people that for the rest of his life are going to put this label on him that he did something nefarious to a woman, whether it's true or not. I mean, so yeah, I mean there's a lot of bad press. Yes, I mean,
but for celebrities, let's say.
Well, I mean, case in point,
getting in a drunken bar fight, that's probably it gets you a lot of press quite often. Is it? I'm not sure it really ruins a career. So thinking about it in that term,
it can though it can ruin a career. There is some press that can ruin a career. Think back a long time ago when Rob Lowe was the very first person to have a sex tape. I mean, it absolutely, it killed his career for years. He was a big movie star, and then he disappeared, and he was doing, like B-list stuff. And then, he was able to make a comeback as a television star, and rightly so. I mean, it was too bad because then you look years later, and someone like Kim Kardashian, who had a sex tape, I mean, that basically created her, and it created an empire, So it kind of did the opposite.
Right.
It just all depends on how it's it's taken. But I think with the dawn of reality television, the American appetite for bad behavior is kind of everyone's appetite is whetted. They love it, and what we used to find to be so appalling and so unforgivable, now people cheer it on. When you turn on a show and you see the Kardashians or the housewives and stuff, slapping each other around and, calling each other names and just acting so uncivilized, it just kind of, it creates that atmosphere for everything. And so the American public, they're willing to allow celebrities to act like fools and idiots and inhumane now. I mean, it's a different playing field. It's different than how it used to be.
What about orchestrating the comeback? That's a good topic. The comeback.
Well, so I think with a comeback, I'll be honest, it really has less to do with the publicist initially than it does with the career. So if you've been out of the public eye for a long time and you're going to come back in, there's not a ton of stuff that a publicist can do if there's not something to work with. You have to have reinvented yourself with a new job, like a brand new show or a new movie or something. It's kind of hard if somebody's been out of the public eye for a long time with nothing going on. It's hard for the publicist to call and pitch and try and get them a bunch of press because the press wants a hook. They want an anchor to grab onto. And so, you know, if there's not new news, you know, a publicist can't just create a comeback. You know,
Right.
we have to take something that's there, that's happening now, and then build on that and garner press around that, if that makes sense to you.
Yep, it sure does.
Yeah.
Would you ever,
I think
if you met a director at a party, I imagine you would be pitching all of your clients to him. Oh, this guy would be great for your film.
Oh, I do that all the time.
You do stuff like that.
I just came off my busiest season of the whole year. It was Emmy season, and for me, Emmy season lasts about 6 weeks.
Right.
People don't realize that there's just not just the Emmy Awards. The 6 weeks leading up to it, you know, they announce the Emmy nominees, and then
yes,
there are tons. The Emmys are governed by the Television Academy here in Los Angeles, and they have all these receptions. So, like, you know, the choreographers have a reception, the daytime performers have a reception, the regular performers have a reception, the diversity group has a reception, the hair and makeup people have a reception. You know, there's the producers, the writers, everybody has a different reception. And so I happen to represent both of the co-governors for the performers. And so the co-governors have to go to all these events. And so I usually have to go with them as like their plus one, you know, and go around, help them in, you know, meet people, introduce them to people. And so when I'm meeting people, I'm constantly pitching and saying, oh my gosh, you're working over on that show at Warner Brothers. Oh, you're over on that show at CBS. Oh, you know who would be great for that? Hey, give me your card. And then I'll say, you know, so-and-so would be so good for that show. And, you know, look for a role for them and stuff, you know, and then I'll, you know, hang out with them for a while and schmooze. And then the next day I'll send them an email and follow up and say, here, pitch my clients. They'd be perfect for your show. You know, I'm constantly doing that. Sometimes it works. Sometimes they just ignore you because they think you're just a pain in the butt. But a lot of times they'll, you know, if something comes up, they'll think about it. I was actually at a private reception one time with Eva Larue, and it was a private reception with Roger Daltrey, which was awesome. And anyway, and I met somebody from a network, and they just liked me and they liked Eva, and we were having a great time. And I pulled them aside and said, hey, you know, if anything comes up, think about her. The next day they called me, they had a role, and they wanted to offer it right out to her. So that was kind of cool. So it worked in that respect.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you know, again, that's really not my job. It's more of an agent or a manager. But, you know, as a publicist, I'm always going to push it anyway. So,
of course, you got to earn your keep. Okay, so now most people aren't celebrities. So what advice would you give to people? Like, what kind of techniques can they do to get themselves PR as they're coming up the ladder?
I'll tell you the biggest thing right now that any up-and-coming artist, actor should do.
Yeah.
Social media.
Okay.
You know, unfortunately, for better or for worse, so much of everything in the entertainment industry and your career is going to be based going forward on social media. Truthfully, in a lot of instances, it doesn't even matter if you can walk and chew gum. You don't even have to be a good actor. But if you have really good social media numbers, I mean, if your social media numbers are up there and you're savvy, you're going to get a job potentially before somebody who's way more talented than you. That's just the sad reality of what the business is doing. You know, I have clients who are, you know, Emmy nominees. I have clients who are Emmy winners. And when I'm pitching them for stuff, people will say, well, what are their social media numbers? You know, to get them into a party, for Pete's sake, what are their social media numbers? And they'll get turned down over some influencer who lives in their parents' basement in Iowa to go to a Hollywood party nowadays. Really, to go to a Hollywood party nowadays, they'll get turned down over somebody who has, you know, 1 million followers on Instagram. And Instagram for younger people tends to be the really important one right now. For people like over 40, it's more Facebook and Twitter. But pretty much I would just say build up your Instagram numbers. And also, too, I know that out here in Los Angeles, I'm not sure if they're doing this in New York, but for younger people, when you go to an audition and you say your name and you slate, they are now asking you for your social media numbers on camera for your slate.
Wow.
Yep. It's happening all the time.
And I know that to be true also because in our breakdowns on New York Castings every day, especially for commercial stuff, they do look for those people with those high numbers also. So that is part of casting nowadays quite often too, in the commercial world.
Yeah, well, this is also in theatrical, but I'll tell you,
Mm-hmm.
for film. But I one thing that I would tell all these up and coming actors, yes, keep studying your craft, because I'm a real believer in that, and I love talented people, because you have to be able to act and stuff. But really, truthfully, social media has become so important, and a lot of big agents and managers are looking at your social media numbers too. It's not enough that you have great reel on yourself and that you've been a series regular for the last 10 years on a show. They want to see your social media numbers, and it's getting worse and worse. And I mean, I hate that, and I hate having to tell up and coming actors that, because I just think it's kind of a sellout, especially when you believe in the craft.
Mm-hmm.
But again, remember something. It is a craft, but it's also a business. They don't call it show fun. If you have fun while you're doing it, that's great. But it's called show business, and social media has become a huge part of the show business. So that's one thing that people have to take into consideration.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Social media number one. What else could you tell them to do?
Well, again, I think I personally have to say that there are certain red carpets that you can go to that are accessible to people who are not celebrities.
And that would be things like film festivals that you can go to. Just anybody can go to. Anybody can usually step on that red carpet and get pictures taken. That's good.
No, I'm telling you the opposite.
Oh.
I personally believe, and I think people who are higher in the echelon of Hollywood, I think that artists need to realize when it's their time and when it's not their time. There's nothing more obnoxious, and the press hates it. Publicists hate it. Everybody in the business hates it. When you're just kind of maybe a day player person, you're at that level, and you haven't gotten to that starring level, and you're going to these things, and there's an opportunity to jump on a red carpet, and you do. Well, it's very ego driven, and people see that. What's the press going to do with your photo? They're really going to do nothing with it. They can't do anything with it. They get paid to publish photos that they can sell, and so I think. For actors and artists, I think the long run, the overall picture, people will take you much more seriously if you realize where you are in your career and you act accordingly. Do not jump on a carpet behind Brad Pitt. You're not Brad Pitt, and you're not at that. You shouldn't be there. Wait until you actually have something to promote so that you really have a reason to be on that carpet. Otherwise, really truthfully, everybody on my end and all the press that I deal with, it's obnoxious, and it's also too, it's embarrassing, because you'll go to like a film festival or something. You'll be on the carpet with your clients who are in the festival and who have big parts, and then all of a sudden you'll see like a nobody person jump on it, and you'll see the press doesn't react. They sit there, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the person who's trying to get on the carpet.
So, but what would a person put in their Instagram pages if they didn't have that sort of stuff? Like, they need content to put up there all the time to get the numbers up.
Take a picture when you're walking down the street. Take a picture anywhere. Listen, if all these junior high girls, in North Dakota, can fill up theirs all day long, how can you not in New York or LA or Chicago or wherever you are? Take pictures. You don't need to be on a red carpet trying to pretend like you're a big star, because people are going to know you're not a big star anyway, and they're going to know you're just, big shotting them. I'm just saying, be practical. PR is a luxury. It's something that you should be doing when you get to a certain point where you need it and where it's essential for your career. In the meantime, I just think that everyone's focused on, I got to get on the red carpet. Let's get on the red carpet. Let's get our picture taken. But what's it really doing for you? Nothing. It's more important for you to be in an acting class. It's more important for you to be auditioning for stuff, to pick up, what's it called, Backstage or whatever. Is that still around the magazine?
That's one of them. Yeah.
I mean, it's more important to be doing that kind of stuff, really working on your craft, studying, that's your first step before PR. PR is your last step. And I just think we've become so red carpet obsessed that everyone thinks that the red carpet is their key to Hollywood. But guess what? No, the people who should be on the red carpet and they've already achieved their goals. They're already there, you know? Okay. I just think people get really confused and think that they need PR and for what? You know, I don't mean to sound, you know, I'm just giving out really practical advice. I mean, I'm just telling you what I really believe.
Good. Any other tips or tricks you can give us?
You know, it's really social media. It's studying and being ready for when the time comes, when you do book that play or that movie or that commercial or that TV show, you know, just be ready. I think one thing that you can do is when you are going out to things, remember, you know, that people who are standing around you might be somebody who can hire you. So, you know, be presentable, look good, you know, don't go in there looking outrageous, you know, don't show up to the opening night of something on Broadway, you know, in ripped jeans, you know, show up in a suit, look good, look presentable, you know your audience, know the atmosphere of where you're going. Don't, you know, try to fit in and look professional. You know, introduce yourself and say hi to people and talk to people, be friendly to people. You know, somebody who you might be rude to at something might be the casting director that you walk in the door to the next day, you know? So it's just, you know, just presenting yourself really well. You know, that's kind of PR. That's kind of our, you know, we should all be doing that on a daily basis anyway. That's your own personal PR. You know, but I just think public relations is, again, I can't emphasize it enough. It's something that comes later. It's something that comes after you've already achieved your artistic goals and you have something to promote. That's when PR should come in. And I just think that everybody has a misunderstanding about that, and everyone thinks that if I get PR, that's going to get me the job. No. The job's going to get you PR.
Got it. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. You got anything else? I think we're wrapped up on this.
No, I think that's about it.
Where can people read about you at?
You know, I have a blog site, TURKPR.net. Mm-hmm. It's TURKPR.net. Yeah, they can go there and they can see who my clients are and stuff. And
how about your social media pages?
You know what? Just go to TURKPR.net. I have my one is private. It's just for friends, and then for my business, just go to TURKPR.net. That's the best place to go.
Okay, got it. All right, Anthony, thank you very much for helping us with this PR stuff today.
Great. All right. I hope I was able to offer some insight. Thanks so much, Aaron.
It was great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, that's all, folks. Surviving Show Business is sponsored by nycastings.com, the place where stars are born. Actors, models, dancers, and singers can join and get casting notices sent to your phone every day.